Jai Ho, my dear students. I am Ratnakar Suryavanshi from SK Public School. In the last class, we have started the study of the French society during 18th or during the late 18th century. And even I told you that who was the king, as I told you that 16th Louis from the Bourbon family, he was a king. He came to the rule in 1774 and his wife was Austrian princess Mary Antoinette, and then he found empty treasury, everything we have learnt, and that's why he decided to, or government of France decided to increase the tax. But who had to pay the tax? So at that time we have learnt about the social structure of the France. The society of the France was divided into three estates, first, second and third. First one was of clergy, second one of nobility, and third one, it was made up of small peasants, big businessmen, peasants, lawyers, court officials, farmers, artisans, etc. And in France, only the members of third estate had to pay the tax. And even various types of taxes also I have told you. Tithus I told, as well as taille I told. Tithus, it was the tax imposed by church on the peasants. So tithus means 1/10 of the agricultural produce has to be given by the farmers or by the peasants to whom? To the church. That was tithus. Even I told you a direct tax called taille also. It was directly imposed or levied on the third estate members by the government of France. And there were number of indirect taxes were there, like as I told you, especially on the everyday consumptions like salt as well as or tobacco. On these also various indirect taxes were levied. So all these things we have learned. Now in this class we are going to learn the struggle to survive. What? The struggle, we learn here the struggle to survive. See, in this mainly we are going to learn about the population of the France, how the population was increased, and what about the production of food grains. About all these things, I mean mainly we learn here about subsistence crisis. Subsistence crisis also we learn in this topic. See that the population of France increased from 23 million in 1715 to 28 million in 1789. See, the population of France was about 73 million. 73 million when in 1715, but it was suddenly increased to the 28. It was increased to the 28 million in 1789. 1789 means during the time of French Revolution it is. So see here, this led to the increase in the demand of food grains. Because of the sudden increasement in the population, what happened? The demands for the food grains. Demands for the food grains also suddenly increased. Huge demand for the food grains increased because of the increasement in the population. But the production of the food grains was not increased with the increasement of population of France. Food grain production remained same, only the population grew. And even see, most of the workers were employed at laborers in workshops whose salary was fixed by their owners, whose wages were fixed by their owners. And those workers, those laborers' salary was not increased with the rise in the prices of the food grains. Because huge demand was there to the food grains, so that's why, but the production was low. So because of that, the price of the food grains was suddenly raised or increased. So because of this, what happened here? As there was a raise in the price of the food grains. Because of this, what happened? The poor people were unable to meet their daily needs. As even workers, their salary was used to be fixed, or wage was used to be fixed by their owners, factory owners or industrialists. And those industrialists did not increase the salary or wage of the workers or the laborers. according to the raise in the prices of food grains. It was not increased. So the gap between the poor and rich was increased. The gap between poor and rich was widened here. And then the situation of the state became so worse. The situation of the France became so worse when France had faced or experienced drought or hailstorm. Drought or hailstorm. Baragala we call drought or hailstorm. At that time, because of the drought or hailstorm, the crop was failed. Harvest was completely failed or reduced. Because of this, what happened? The situation for the food grains or the demand for the food grain, now it was increased rapidly in France. So this led to a subsistence crisis. This all led to the subsistence. What? Subsistence crisis. Now the question, what do you mean by subsistence crisis? Correct, no? Subsistence crisis means a situation or the situation in which people couldn't meet their daily needs. The situation in which people could not meet their daily needs. Food needs. That is called as subsistence crisis. So because of the high price for the food grains, what happened? Subsistence crisis arose or led in France. And this is whatever I have told you under the struggle to survive, about population increased, I told you, but the food grain production did not increase, it remained same. Because of that, the price of the food grains increased. And then what happened? And the situation of France became more worse when, as I told you, that when the crops were failed because of drought or hailstorm. And at that time, this was led in France, this was led to the subsistence crisis. Subsistence crisis means a situation or the situation in which people couldn't buy or couldn't meet their daily needs. And this is what happened in the old regime. This is what happened in the old regime. Old regime means, you know that old regime means the period of Bourbon family's rule till 1789. That was called as old regime. This is what the things happened in the old regime. A state-based society was also there as a part or during the time of old regime only. So this is the struggle to survive. So the next topic will be continued, and the next topic is growing middle class envisages an end to privileges. So let's see about this also we will study. A growing middle class envisages an end to privileges, which means, see, middle class, it was a new section of the society emerged within the third estate that puts an end to the privileges. Privileges means a special privilege, special benefits enjoyed by the upper two estates, clergy and nobility. So to all those privileges, there was an end made by middle class. It was the new section of the society. So let's see about this also. See that in the past, before 1789 also, before 1789, before the French Revolution also, peasants as well as workers, farmers, they had participated in revolts against the increasement in the tax or against the food scarcity. They have participated before 1789, but they did not have any proper plan to bring about a change in social and in economic order. They did not have any plan to bring any changes in economic structure of the economic system of the France or in social structure of the France. They did not have plan, and it was left, this planning and bringing changes was left to those groups within the third estate who had become prosperous, who were rich and who had access to education and new ideas, who had facility of education and new ideas, who were prosperous within the third estate. To them, preparing plans and bringing economic and social changes in the France was left. See, in the 18th century, the 18th century witnessed to the emergence of one more new class in the France. That new class was middle class. One more section in the society, that was middle class within the third estate. See what happened here. See, these middle class people, middle class members within the third estate, they earned their life, they earned their wealth through an expanding overseas trade, and manufacture of goods such as silk and cotton, which were either brought or either exported or either brought by the richer members of the third estate. I mean mainly through the manufacturing of silk and cotton, as well as through an expanding of foreign or overseas trade. The middle class members within the third estate, they earned their wealth, they accumulated their wealth, they became rich within the third estate. And in addition to this, see here one more important point. Third estate was made of merchants, as well as, now I have told you about merchants, even manufacturers were also the part of which one? Third estate. Manufacturers were also the part of third estate, and even court officials were also the part of the third estate. Lawyers also the part of third estate, as well as administrative officials, administrative officers were also the part of third estate. With these two also, merchants, manufacturers, as well as lawyers, court officials, administrative officials, these were all the part of third estate, and they believed that no section or no group in the society should be privileged by birth. No section in the society or no group in the society should be privileged by birth. This was their thought, this was their idea, we can say here. And even see that here one more important point, we can understand here that the sections I have mentioned, these sections had access to education, as well as all the sections within the third estate, they had access to new ideas. And as I told you, they believed that no groups in the society or no group in the society should be privileged by birth, and rather a person's social position must be depend on his merit. They believed that no group in the society should be privileged by birth, and rather a person's social position should depend or must depend on his merit, means on his strength only. A person's social position in the society should be dependent. This is what the thought of these people, members of the middle class of third estate. And even see these ideas envisaging a society, these all the ideas envisaging a society on freedom and equal laws and opportunities for all were put forward by philosophers like John Locke as well as Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I mean, these middle class people's ideas were inspired by the thoughts or by the writings of various great philosophers like John Locke as well as Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Then what were their thoughts of those philosophers? See, their thoughts were about society should be based on freedom and equal laws. Society should be based on freedom and equal laws and opportunities for all. Equal opportunities should be provided to all. So these were the three important thoughts coined by the great philosophers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau or John Locke. Freedom for all, equality of equal laws and equal opportunities for all. These were the important thoughts or ideas which were introduced by whom? By the philosophers like John Locke, or it may be the Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Then see, let's say about that. See, in the in his two treatises of government, John Locke had written one great book. John Locke had written one great book, that is two treatises of government. Two treatises of government. In this, John Locke criticized the doctrine of the divine and the absolute right of monarch. Doctrine of the divine and the absolute right of the monarch both were criticized, refused by the John Locke in his book called The Two Treatises of Government. Here, doctrine of the divine means what? Kings or the rulers of the French Empire, they used to feel or they used to think that this power to rule the French Empire was given by God. This is what we call doctrine of divine, which means feeling like God has given this right to rule this empire. So this is what called here doctrine of the divine. So John Locke opposed doctrine of the divine as well as absolute right of the monarch. Absolute right of the monarch means, obviously you know that, unlimited power of the king, unlimited power of the ruler or monarch. That was called as absolute right or power of the monarch. Both were opposed, both were criticized by John Locke in his book called The Two Treatises of the Government. So we will stop in this class here, and in the next class we will learn about the thoughts of Jean-Jacques Rousseau also as the part of the main topic called A Growing Middle Class, Envisages an End to Privileges. Thank you. Jai Hind.